Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode on the show, a podcast designed to help you start thinking differently and take control of your life. What if some of the struggles you have spent your entire life trying to overcome aren't signs that something is wrong with you, but patterns formed when you were simply trying to survive? Today, John P. Boyle joins Control or Be Control to talk about the hidden impact of childhood trauma, complex PTSD, high performance, leadership, faith, and a journey from survivor to healing. John is a Harvard Business School graduate, engineer, entrepreneur, executive advisor, and best-selling author of Appalachian Kid and Invisible Wounds. Raised in a coal mining family in West Virginia, he built a successful career in business and leadership while carrying emotional wounds he didn't fully understand until later in life. John also shares how faith, self-awareness, and trauma-informed understanding helped him move from confusion to clarity, and why healing requires us to face what we once learned to survive. If you have ever wondered why you react the way you do, why success hasn't brought the peace you expected, or whether the past is still controlling parts of your present, this conversation offers a different way to understand yourself. Once again, John, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Darlington. It's an honor to be here with you on Monday morning.
All right, thank you so much, John, and I hope you enjoyed that wonderful introduction.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so John, you grew up in an environment where safety could be unpredictable, right?
That's correct. Very.
Okay, so looking back now, what did you learn about yourself as a child that you later had to unlearn as an adult?
Well, to be honest with you, as a child, most of my endeavors circled around survival. I was just simply trying to get from start to finish each day without enduring too much pain, without making my parents upset. I was living a life that was not healthy. It would not be healthy for any child to be in, right? And so really the difference became when I moved out of the house and when I was on my own, the challenges became, well, I have all these landmines in my nervous system and in my life that I didn't understand. I didn't understand that the difficulties that I had in adulthood were originated in my childhood, and I didn't understand that the symptoms that I had as an adult were connected in any way. And the reality was that I was living a life that was marred by trauma as an adult, and I didn't know how to navigate it. So that really the difference was, as an adult, I had control over my own life, but in actuality, I didn't know what was going on inside me or have any idea that there was anything I could do to heal. I didn't understand even how to define the problem. So it was very confusing for me, especially in my young adult years. And really, I mired in difficulty for over a decade before I found a way to start to heal from the difficulties I was having as a result of my childhood.
Okay, thank you so much, John. So you built an impressive career in engineering, business, and leadership. When did you first realize that achievement wasn't necessarily the same thing as being okay? I mean, you look like you have it all, but you didn't seem okay.
Really, that didn't come. The realization that there's a bifurcation between a successful career and a healthy personal life, I really didn't have that realization until around 37. And really what brought that to the forefront was two things. One, I kept shoving the trauma that I had as a young person under the bed like a child would clean up the room and then tell mom or dad that it's clean. But instead, they shoved all the toys under their bed. right? And every time the room got dirtier, they would keep shoving things under their bed until the point where the space under their bed could no longer hold what they were throwing in there. And so, like that example, my life and the way that I dealt with trauma was unhealthy. I ignored it. I suppressed it. And by the time I was 37, I was waking up in the middle of the night with terrible anxiety in my midsection. And I had no idea what was causing it. Absolutely no idea. I would have no idea why I was up at 2 or 3 in the morning. And so when that collided with an unhealthy habit that I had used to mitigate some of my symptoms after work. So when I graduated from college, I really started using alcohol as a crutch. I used it to give me a euphoria at the end of the workday. I used alcohol to really paint over rust, so to speak. To take a difficult day and take a difficult set of symptoms that happened in that workday. When I got home, I needed to unwind. I needed to decompress. I needed to, really what I needed to do was acknowledge the feelings that I had and try to do something with them. But instead, I suppressed those feelings by using alcohol. And while it would give me some temporary relief, it would surge back, when the effects of the alcohol wore off. And so by the age of 37, my liver had enough, and it stopped processing vitamins and started instead processing alcohol. And so I became malnourished because my liver wasn't functioning the way it was intended to function. And so by 37, I had the realization in several fronts in my life that I could not continue to live the same life. And that is when I began to realize that a successful career does not necessarily mean you're going to have a successful and healthy personal life. And then, because I really didn't have a choice, I sought to get healthy, to get clean, to deal with trauma in a healthy way so that I could be here not only for myself and the people dependent on me, but mostly for my family. So it was a challenge. It took over a decade and a half to bring clarity and light to that situation.
Okay. Thank you so much, John. Many people are in this. They have a troubled childhood, and they are successful in their career, but they are finding it difficult to make that shift of moving to from a career that is successful to being okay. So how can they begin to make that shift?
Well, it's a challenge. Step one is always define the problem, right? And if one of your listeners, or if any of your listeners are having symptoms like strong reactions, not being able to get over the past, shutting down in difficult or challenging situations, in feeling unsafe even though they know they're safe, and just not feeling understood. Typically, those are indicators that you have dealt with trauma somewhere, sometime in your past, or in my case, it was chronic, right? And it's rather common for people to have the experience that I have. I've seen some statistics that show in the United States that 1 in 7 people grow up like I have, and that's a very large number. But yet, when you look in our society in the United States, you don't see a whole lot of people talking about the issue, right? And there's a lot of reasons as to why. But the first step, getting back to your question, the first step in overcoming trauma is a realization that there's something going on inside of you that may not necessarily be going on in the people around you. And so you begin to realize that there is an issue internally. The best thing you can do if you're someone like that and you're listening to this is to go to your doctor or go to a mental health professional, someone in the medical field that you trust, and simply say, I am having symptoms that I do not understand. And I would like to explore whether these symptoms are connected. Could we look at this, doctor, with a trauma-informed lens? And I have found, Darlington, that when you can define the problem, i.e., when you can sit in front of a doctor or a healthcare or a medical professional, a mental health professional, when you can sit in front of them and you can say, these are my symptoms. I don't know if they're related. I don't know if they're, a result of my past, or I don't know what may be causing these. That's called defining the problem. And if you can get a diagnosis, if you can define the problem, then you can begin to read books or ask those same medical professionals how to heal from it. And if you don't define that problem, if you don't go and seek help, if you don't connect the dots, then you're going to mire in difficulty. So really the first step and the most critical step is to get a diagnosis, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt what is happening inside of you, or what is happening behind the curtains, or what is happening when you peel back the onion. You're never going to be able to get there. And so I always encourage people to go and share. And what is most common, Darlington, in people with my background, man or woman, is you have one dominant system and one dominant symptom at any one given time. For me in my life, early on, it was insomnia, and then it became anxiety, and then it became muscle armoring, and then it became a broken fight or flight response. So your symptoms will ebb and flow, and that's what makes diagnosis of the disorder so hard for a medical professional to do correctly. Because if you don't give that medical professional a few symptoms and share with that person enough that they know that you came from a troubled childhood or you're coming out of a troubled situation, the likelihood of misdiagnosis increases. And when that happens, it delays healing and it deepens pain. And so what I always recommend is just get a diagnosis, share, open the book and share with someone who knows how to diagnose it. And when you have a clear picture of what you're dealing with, then you can focus how to win. And it becomes less of a challenge because you're not asking, what's wrong with me? You start to unpack what happened to me. And there's a big difference there. Because one can bring about shame. One can bring about, things that just aren't true. But when you know what you're dealing with, well, then you can start climbing the mountain and overcoming it. So that would be my advice.
Okay. Thank you so much, John.
Mm-hmm.
So many people are stuck in this awareness stage. They are aware of what is happening to them, but still find it difficult to make that shift. Why do you think this is the case? How were you able to move from awareness to changing situation?
Well, that's a very hard question to answer. In my case, I harnessed hope, right? And for me, I began to have the realization that my story wasn't defined by what happened to me. Rather, it was defined by what would happen next, right? So I tried to put together a method that worked for me. And ultimately, that became having faith in God. Because when I believed down in my core and I understood that my life had purpose, that there was a reason why I went through what I did, well, then it gave me the energy, it gave me the initiative, it gave me the ambition to want to not only overcome it, but it was such a bad experience to me that I wanted to turn back and help others who had grown up like me but hadn't been able to find those steps for healing. So, it's dangerous if we would compare ourselves to one another because all of our journeys are different. So the key denominator really in trying to bring yourself out of the abyss is you really have to have hope, right? And hope can come from religion. Hope, to me, is being able to see that there is light despite all the darkness. We all have lenses. We can focus on the good. We can focus on the bad. For people that have had the same experience like me growing up, it's very hard to default to the positive. It's very hard to force yourself to be positive. It's very hard to see the value of that over time. And really, when you can harness hope and when you have strong vehicles in your life like faith, they can bring you day after day, month after month, year after year out of the abyss. And then before you realize it, you look back and you've healed in ways that you've not really realized that you've gone through it. You've healed in ways that make you more understanding. You've healed in ways that help you become more successful, more emotionally aware, more emotionally intelligent. And by doing that, and by looking back, by celebrating wins, if you're someone that has overcome adversity, what you realize is you're stronger than you believe you really are, right? And many children who have grown up like me are very strong internally, but they don't give themselves the credit. They don't realize what they've actually brought themselves through until they start trying to heal and start trying to come out of the abyss, and they start reading books or listening to stories of others who have come before them and seeing, well, look what God's done in that person's life, or look what having hope has brought them, right? It's paid them in spades. So you have to be able to harness the positive and find ways to celebrate the wins despite the losses that are occurring around you, or moving forward contradictory to how you might feel internally. So that would be my advice.
Hey, John, thank you so much because
Yes.
many people are there. I myself, I think I'm still in the stage of awareness, trying to move into changing those. So, moving on, tell us the difference between surviving your life and actually living your life.
Well, survival to me is doing something at any cost to get through a situation, right? That may mean you put an undue burden on your organs like I did, making choices I shouldn't have made, like drinking excessively every day. At the same time, it can foster in other ways, right? But what I found over time is the behaviors that I was using to get through the adversity I was facing really was only brief. They were solutions that lasted a number of hours. What has brought me long-term success is forming habits. They've been habits of faith, whether I wake up in the morning and listen to a sermon. I always pray. If I can't listen to a sermon, I read the Bible. But by having that devotional time, by having meditation, by praying, even if it's just a little bit, it starts my day off right. And then I have habits throughout the day, right? Where maybe in my past, when I wasn't in tune with the difficulties I was having in my younger years, I would people please. I would do whatever it took, whatever the cost was, to come out with a solution that was amenable to my company or to my partner in life, my wife, or to, my family because I worked in a family business. I was constantly trying to please the people around me instead of being honest and open about what was going on inside me. So when I started to be open and honest with myself and then with others, it broke down those walls of shame. It broke down the walls of misunderstanding. And what I learned really was that I needed to remove myself from certain situations. In some cases, they were friends that were more toxic than helpful, and I didn't see that. In other cases, it was family members. And for me, I ultimately had to leave the family business, leave my career, leave many of my friends and the people that I had worked around for decades. And it was very hard for me. But what you've got to choose is your life and your well-being and your family over anything else. And so ultimately, what brought me out of a difficult situation was a realization that I mattered myself. I should matter to me. I should celebrate my wins. I should be able to have happiness too. And in a lot of cases in family business and sometimes with toxic friends, I didn't feel that environment was there for me. And so it was very hard to navigate. It was very hard to think about those things. It was very hard to choose to sever ties with people that I did love and that I, honestly